Welcome back, everyone, to theCUBE's coverage special presentation here in Palo Alto studio. This is where we have our West Coast point of presence. Of course, we got the NYSE show floor with theCUBE East, and we bring all that open source content to you. We're talking about the AI innovators in Silicon Valley, the subnet here in the valley where all the technology leaders are. And of course, we also were weaving in the AI for CFOs, where business model transformation's happening. It's going to happen on a highly accelerated rate in the next 2 years specifically. And we got a lot of great guests coming through, sharing their content with you. Gaurav Nemade is here, this co-founder of Inventive, another entrepreneur who's in the arena. Gaurav, thanks for coming on theCUBE. Appreciate your time, and looking forward to chatting about your awesome opportunity around agents, our favorite topic.
Yeah, excited to be here, John. Thanks a lot.
So obviously business model transformation, it teased up, that's the CFO crossover, but the innovators in AI are leading the way, and CFOs and executives and businesses in the enterprise, and startups, by the way, too, are leveraging all this. So agents are going to play a real role with this data, right? And so there is no AI without data. Making that data fast, making it low latency, addressable. You guys have a company that you started that's kind of really in the sweet spot of where we see the next killer app. I mean, search, we see RAG and search, great, find what you're looking for, vector embeds, all good. But that's just the beginning. That's not going to go away, but the tasks become huge. So agents will be big. Talk about what you guys have built, are building, what the venture's about, how you started, and we'll get into some of where you see agents going. Obviously, you have a great background with Google, DeepMind, and other areas. So let's explain what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. So our company is called Inventiveai, and we are building AI agents for sales teams. So one of the core things that we have realized early on, that agents are going to pick up like really, really fast. And as you mentioned, like at my time at Google AI, what we realized, like the LLM technology is going to like really accelerate over the next few years. So I quit Google early 2022 and started on this journey of figuring out how we can use agents to help the sales team. So the workflow that we are focusing on right now is helping the RFP teams in reducing their effort by 60–70% in responding to these like RFPs. And there are about $1.4 trillion worth of projects in the US alone that get allocated via RFP process and tendering process. Right? So what we do is like we help them reduce the time and effort to respond to these like 500 to 1,000 page RFPs, and help them just, save 70–80% of the time overall on that.
Yeah, it's not your weekend that's blown, it's multiple weekends.
Yeah, and
how many people how much time they spend on RFPs?
Right, yeah. And there are like multiple people involved, like it's not just like a one-person job. Usually you have teams of 20–30 people responding to these RFPs. Yeah. So we're very excited about that opportunity. Yeah. In terms of like agents being able to automate some of those things. And we feel that we're just getting started with this whole agentic workflow. Like RFPs is just like one workflow that we are going deep. We're going to be like targeting additional workflows on the sales team and helping build a lot of like power drills that can go and help them with these AI agents.
When you're at Google DeepMind, and you just recently left a couple of years ago, year and a half ago or so, that was, I mean, it's pretty historic if you look at the whole pedigree of Google's role in all this. When you came out of that, the market was booming, okay? People realized the shift. I mean, they didn't talk about agents at the time. That was just ChatGPT was the big, oh my God, the user experience is changing. That then trained everybody. Like, hey, this is the new user experience. I call it the best thing in tech to ever happen, because I can stop explaining what AI is now, because people just see it. We call it the browser moment. People use different metaphors, but that really changed. Since then, as you go into this thing, is it a productivity angle for you? Look, knowing what was before the moment, and then now, what's your view on how things have changed? What advancements have progressed? What's been the big needle-moving moments besides the user experience?
Yeah, I think you absolutely nailed that right, John. I think it was the user experience. Like the innovation was not actually ChatGPT. The innovation was that you were able to hook up a chat, like a GPT 3.5 model, into a user interface that millions of people across the world could use. Because we already had models that were capable like 3.5 or GPT-3 or 2 like for a very long time, like at least 2–3 years before that. But as soon as the world got access through their keyboards, I think it just blew up. So that was like super exciting generally, and I completely agree with you. I think it was the user experience that got us here. But one of the things that I'm super excited about from now on is this whole idea of like multi-agent systems, and that's where we are kind of entering in. Like right now, we just have like single agents that can go do like booking of your flight or do XYZ things, right? we are entering into this era where you will have maybe 100 agents, I will have 100 agents, and then there'll be like 1,000 agents out there, and your agents will talk to my agents and get things done along the way. So we are excited about how we can actually enable that within the sales teams, like sales people can have their agents and they can go into the finance team, HR software and stuff like that, and kind of do all of that by themselves. So that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, have my agent call your agent for the next CUBE gig. But I think that the key is that, delegation, trust, resiliency around the quality of agent interactions, the data problem, right? I mean, and so with this RFP angle you guys have, is that an entry strategy? Because it's an easy use case, right? I mean, hey, RFPs. What's the vision beyond RFPs? Because I can see the collaboration, because that's also a time killer too, waiting for someone to respond. You own getting that piece of it. Take us through where this goes from here with your venture, because there's so much more productivity opportunities with sales workflows, because you got customer touches,
Right.
other data. What's the vision?
Yeah. So I think one of the core things that we are driving is like once we have access to the data in the organizations, right? Like RFP is just one vertical workflow that we are solving for. One of our core thesis or core understanding in this space is that a lot of these like hyperscalers, companies like Salesforce, they're going to build like generic things that can go across different use cases and solve for, let's say, top 30, 40, 50% of the use cases. But our learning, like as a startup, how we are going to win in this space is that there are these last 50% of these workflows that require deep integration and that requires for solving for deep things. So,
Like what?
like for example, like RFP is like a very deep workflow, right? Like you can build a simple agent by hooking up the data, getting the RFP and responding to it. But it just doesn't stop there. You have to collaborate with 20 other people. You have to have personalization and contextualization as part of your RFP and so on. Similarly, sales enablement is like a big deal in itself, right? Like there is so much personalization that you can have in terms of coaching your sales people or creating the collateral for the sales team that they go out and pitch to different clients, right? So there are like these 5 or 6 verticals that we are eyeing that we will have, that will kind of go and build like power drills for, like I was
Like a
saying. over
prefabricated workflow,
Yeah.
stands up the response, you can edit it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but like we want to go much deeper into that. Like I think we want to go and solve. One of the things we strongly feel is that technology is democratized. Like the large language models, agents, this is going to be democratized. The companies that are going to win are the ones that are going to understand the user workflows end to end. So we are in this to solve for like 6 or 7 or 10 different workflows in next couple of years instead of doing, let's say, 200 use cases that a generic agentic platform can do.
So rather than horizontal, you do enough horizontal with the workflows, and then you're going to get more at the domain expertise
Yes.
in the user base. So like I'm the person in charge of the data center. That might be an AppSec review part of the RFP. I'm making this up, but like I own this piece.
Right.
That's more comprehensive than just we support the cloud.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Are your S3 buckets secure? What's your two-factor? I mean, these are in the weeds details.
Yep.
You guys plan on surfacing all that stuff? Is that how it would work? I'd have my own agent, and I got to bring my agent to the party, so to speak. So is that how you see it?
Yeah.
Deployment?
So I think the way it's going to work is at the end of the day, there will be like, we already have like a couple of different agents within the RFP workflow. So we have like a main agent that goes and figures out which of these agents it needs to work with. And then kind of that agent takes that action. So I think one of the bottlenecks in this agent world right now is having good orchestrators. Like by orchestrators, I mean you have a parent agent and they have like a multiple set of like smaller agents, for example, right? So which agent needs to be called for the right job and in what order so that you are, like not hampering the efficiency. So I think that orchestrator layer, I think, is kind of missing right now. So we have built something in-house to kind of handle some of those things. But over a period of time, I would be excited for the research community to get in that zone and build that strong orchestrator.
Yeah, I love the multi-agent thing. Definitely sub-agents we call them, but I think that's happening. Our research is definitely showing that. How big are you guys right now? Talk about the scope of the venture. Where are you at in the progress? Give us some of the highlights.
Yeah, so we are a seed stage company. We're part of the Y Combinator's last year's summer batch. And we are like over a dozen people at this point of time. So yeah, growing steadily. And yeah, we're seeing like a lot of customer traction at this point of time. So super excited about that.
So talk about the data challenge with the venture, because a lot of customers sometimes don't even know what they have. Like, so do you apply first wave of figuring out what's in the landscape of the customer, and then rolling it out? Take us through the engagement of a customer. Say, I'm interested. Hey, I love what you're. I want to be a customer.
Right.
Got me sold.
Yeah.
I would want the agents. What do I do?
So the number one thing is we help our agents create something called a knowledge hub. where we work with them to understand, like for this particular RFP workflow, what are the most important bits of information that you have that we can work with essentially, right? So the information can be anything in form of their previous RFPs that they might have done. A lot of times they just like recircle content within RFPs, but we also go in and integrate with their systems from, let's say, SharePoint, Google Drives, Confluence, Notions, and so on. Our approach right now is that we want to keep the data as high quality as possible so that they start seeing immediate returns. Because if there is like all the data from the organization and the retrieval is slightly hard for the retrieval generation systems, then it becomes challenging. So our approach right now is that we just try to get as much high quality information as possible. And then along that, we are also building integrations with all of their systems from Jira to Slack and stuff like that, and getting that information in the Knowledge Hub and set that up really, really well. So this is step one, and this is the most important step in the whole process. After they are done with that, I think our agents are pretty well set in terms of, like we can help you do competitor research, we can help you do like generation, getting to first draft and things like that. So then it becomes much easier. And of course, we have some fine-tuned models, so we would like take these, evaluate how it's working, and then tweak the quality along the way.
Talk about external integrations. Like, do you connect into like Slack, or, I mean, we have news, people always use our news. Do you see like Perplexity? That's a great engine. Do you see yourself peering with other sources or in that Knowledge Hub?
So we have customers who are asking for that right now. Like so far what we have been focusing on is the enterprise data itself. Like we don't go outside of the ecosystem.
So you're nailing the first use case, which is get that Knowledge Hub up and running.
Correct.
Highly reliable.
Right, yeah. So
accurate.
That's the number one goal. And then what we are expanding into now is we are looking at like some of these like public type of infrastructures where we can also get some public like information in there. So if we don't have, let's say, a response to a section in the RFP, then can we go in and like get some information from the
Dun and Bradstreet or whatever, whoever.
Yeah.
All right, talk about Salesforce, because they just rebranded Agentforce. Obviously, they, they're not known for the best user experience, but they have the system of record. They've always had that collection. They would remind me of Cisco in the early days. They would buy a bunch of companies, but they all kind of didn't work together. But they think they can bring it all together. Obviously, Salesforce, sales people are in there. But I haven't met one salesperson that loves it. But their boss tells them they have to use it. They're trying to change that. How are you guys going to compete against Salesforce? Are they a partner? Are they a competitor? What are you guys doing different? Because a lot of people do have Salesforce.
Right.
So that's where that data entry's in. So can I get an agent to integrate Salesforce, or do I go with you guys? Talk about that dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. So Agentforce is definitely in the area of like where we are operating, but I think our strategy is very different and the thesis we are operating with is very different. Number one is we see that Salesforce, Agentforce is more like a toolbox versus we are building a power drill. For specific workflows. Like they have a toolbox that can solve for, let's say, 40-50% of sales use cases, but they cannot solve for the rest of those 40-50% of the use cases that require a lot of workflow integrations, collaboration, and like a bunch of other things, right? So that's that. Like we are building a power drill, let's say, for RFP workflows right now, and we'll expand the same analogy for other verticals as I was telling earlier. That's one. The second is we've realized that, by the way, we started by building a horizontal company first, like 1.5 years, 2 years ago when I left Google and we were looking at this space, we started building like multiple agents, and we realized quickly that it's like a workflow game and not like we can't do this and compete with hyperscalers or Salesforce and stuff like that, right? So that's why we decided to go with this approach. And the second core insight we got was about personalization and contextualization. The last decade was about spray and pray approach. What SaaS enabled you to do was, if you can send 10 emails in a day, it enabled you to send 10,000 emails in a day. What the next 5-10 years is going to be about personalization and contextualization. So you can do all of that, but at a personalized scale. So it's hard to do personalization if you are at a generic level, like contextualization.
All vanilla.
At a generic.
Dear recipient. We've seen those on those email spam. That's just bad. So you're saying get down to the personal level when the account details are intimate. For example, I want to send an email to a customer. It's not a generic, hey, we're having, here's our newsletter. That's kind of an over-the-top example, but that's what you're getting at, personal.
Right. Yep. So in the RFPs, for example, it's all about like personalization and contextualization. And a lot of our clients are coming up, like some of them use ChatGPT for obvious reasons, and then they are like, hey,
we read my emails, make it sound more professional or whatever. We've seen that. But I mean, to me, I like this workflow angle because process in the enterprise is where the data is. That's where the expertise are. That's where the domain users are that have expertise. Do you have the power drill? You're going to create your own power drills, but I'm the customer. I want my own power drill. So can I use your power drill? Can I make my own? Because I have process. I know my workflow.
Right.
And I know the data. I want to play around. Is that something on your radar?
Yeah, so we see a lot of customer in this dilemma right now, and with Gen AI, right? Like, should we build this internally or should we, buy a solution outside? If I understand correctly, that's what you're asking. We have customers all across the board. We have customers who have come to us and they were like, you know what, we are going to build this internally. And we have customers who are building it internally. They realize it's like super hard, and then they came and started working with us.
Yeah, but if I'm a tool, so if you're a power tool, so you're doing use cases like RFP, that's something that's clear and understand.
Right.
Okay, but I might have other workflow things that are important to me. So are you enabling me to use your tool to build my own tool with your stuff? It's not versus build versus buy. So there's build versus buy. I get that. I'm a big believer in build is harder now with integrated systems architecture because black boxes emerge, technical debt happens, people could leave.
Right.
There's a lot of problems with trying to do something in-house if it's plumbing or if it's an abstraction layer that's feeding the core. So I agree with that. But the model we're seeing is that enablement. Now, I know my workflows. I have an RFP, but they're not always that big. Can I customize it? That's the question.
I see. I think we don't have that functionality right now, and I don't think we are thinking about that anytime soon. But the way we would do it, like maybe eventually, is through integrations. Like we would want to have like integrated in your workflow, right? Like, so we have simple integrations right now. Like you can start a project from whatever your CRM system is. Like a customer is requesting something, you can click a button and that project gets created in Inventive. So we have things like that right now. But maybe like in the future, we would go and like integrate more within your systems and provide that.
Well, it's still early days. I mean, we always say in the hype of agentic systems is super high right now, and the reality is it's hitting.
Right.
Low-hanging fruit. You're starting to see some use cases that are obvious, and then we're going to see a progression, we think, where everyone sees more data available, then the agents will get smarter. I'm not sure you would agree with that, but do you?
Yeah, so I think you hit on a really good point, which is the challenge right now is how these different tools and systems would interact. Like part of the agent workflow, the important bit is that the agents have to go in and have integrations with the tools so that they can take actions, right? And that's where ChatGPT plugins, I feel, kind of failed. Like ChatGPT has a great interface to go in and act on, let's say, 200 tools they were integrated with. But these APIs were fickle. The protocol was like non-existent at that point of time. So I feel that Anthropic has taken like a good first step in that direction with like model context protocol. So that open sourcing, if that kind of picks up, that could become like an HTTP of this world essentially. And that could really enable like a lot of companies like us to go and integrate with different tools.
I mean, I think the opportunity for you guys is to continue to take the leverage from the knowledge of your AI background and watch the space, because the whole sales vertical is up for grabs, potentially. I mean, but you got to land somewhere, right? I mean, the old land and expand it was a SaaS concept, but when you land in the new data world, if you have data, I mean, you can easily hit adjacencies.
Yep.
I'm sure that's on your radar too.
Yes.
All right, so talk about your role in the industry right now. What's the bet? If you had to say, our bet for Inventive is what? What's the big bet? What are you betting the venture on? What's the big trend, tech, use case, market force? What's the bet?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think those are the two bets that we have. One is like sales workflows are much more complicated to be able to handle by like generic things, like generic agents that some of these like hyperscalers or Salesforce is doing. So that's our bet, that we are going to be like a workflow first company within sales, and that's going to be like that is going to propel us forward and put us like head to head against some of these bigger players like Salesforce in the market. And the second is contextualization and personalization is hard, and it might seem easy with like everything going on Gen AI, but it's like super hard. I've been like in this space for last like 4 or 5 years trying to understand this, and it's not easy at all. So I think those are the two big bets that we are taking with Inventive, and we are hoping that will play out and like get us like a
I mean, scaling personalization is extremely difficult. Most people think it's personal because they just use ChatGPT, but that's a one-off.
Correct.
That's not. That's manual.
Right. And in the personalization, in the proposal space, the personalization is even more challenging. Like you have different industries for which you could be doing RFPs. There are different like countries, languages, needs are different, right? So like I can't have a tailored response for everything. Like I need to understand what the context is before I can put a 200-page proposal.
So talk about that dynamic. I know we're running on time here, but I want to get this out there because, that's a great point. Some companies don't know that they actually could go after RFPs. That's a revenue opportunity. That's a net new. That would be a CFO conversation.
Right.
I mean, theCUBE. Let's just say theCUBE has no idea. We got video. Maybe there's an RFP out there for 10,000 video. I don't know. Maybe how do I know what's out there? So if there was RFPs, we'd have to then stand that up. Would we work with you guys on that? How would that work?
Yeah, so
first of
all, the market is huge. Like I mentioned earlier, at $1.4 trillion worth of projects get allocated via RFPs in the US alone, leave like UK, Australia, globally, right?
All contract, government, for example. All.
It's huge, like government, private sectors, like anything from DMV trying to buy a cybersecurity software to like government trying to buy like defense stuff and so on, right? So it's a huge, huge market. We are not in the space right now of helping you find the RFPs. We are in the space like once you have made your mind that you want to bid on this RFP, that's where we kind of come in. We could expand into this space in the future, but like right now,
how would I know? How would I work with you guys? Let's say I saw an IFP out there, or RFP out there.
Yeah.
How do I engage? How would someone engage with the platform?
Yeah. So just come, like we'll give you a demo on how the platform works. Essentially, the step one is we help you just understand what knowledge you have and can it be used to generate RFP responses essentially. So the step one would be we just have a conversation, understand what your knowledge base looks like, figure out what is the best way to move forward from there.
Is that a service or is that technology?
Technology, and like for the onboarding, we like have like operations team and service enabled within that.
And how long does it take to get up and running?
It could take anywhere from like half a day to 7 days, depending on how
much they have.
Yeah, how complex their ecosystem is in terms of data.
All right, Gaurav, what's next for you guys? What's the key milestones? What are you trying to knock down, put a plug in for the company?
Yeah, we are super excited about the opportunity right now. I think we have a really good product at hand. We have like a lot of customers coming in, and like literally it's so gratifying. We had a call this morning. People were just like thanking us, like, hey, thanks for building this product. Like no more working on Saturdays and Sundays because of this. So excited about the opportunity. And yeah, if people have RFPs that they are working on, please do talk to us and we'd be more than happy to help.
Congratulations. Looking forward to following up and seeing how you guys are doing. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. This is theCUBE plus the NYSE Wire community. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. Thanks for watching.